Let's get to John Rothstein. He's a CBS Sports college basketball insider. By the way, when I first got in the media, 2007, okay, I was still on injured reserve with the Washington football team. They had a different name back then. I did a TV show with John Rothstein at times. I don't even remember the name of the show. John, do you remember this name of the show? Seth was the producer. It was like we would go around the horn, kind of. You were in New York. I was in different cities. Do you remember that show?
I think it was Out of Line on CN8 or Out of Bounds
Out
on
of
CN8.
Bounds.
Out of Bounds on CN8. Yes, I remember it vividly, Ross. Great to be with you this morning.
Yeah, man, you are killing it. It's been fun to follow your career. It's funny. You probably hear this a lot, John. I know you're fully invested in it. I don't follow college hoops hardly at all until right now. Mm-hmm. And now this weekend and this week, I will root for, like, my wife and sister-in-law went to Bucknell, right? I went to Princeton. I will root for them like you wouldn't believe. I think it's the coolest part of maybe any sport is rooting for your alma mater or for smaller schools to have their chance at the dance.
Well, and that's the thing, Ross, that's become so interesting because of the changing landscape in college basketball. There's less player retention, especially at the mid-major level. So we are going to enter all of these conference tournaments here over the next week, and we are going to see different teams seeded a certain way entering these conference tournaments. Seeds have never been more meaningless in these obvious conference tournaments than they are right now because of the lack of player retention. And another thing you have to remember, last year, only 12 teams out of the 32 conferences that won their respective regular seasons went on to win automatic qualifiers to the NCAA tournament by winning their conference tournament. Russ Tucker, this is March.
Wow. 1/3 actually won their conference tournament. So this is self-serving, okay? But I got to ask you about Princeton quick, all right? My understanding is that they have like the two best players in the Ivy League. They have Alec Pierce, the Colts receiver, his younger brother, Caden, and they have the point guard from Toronto that put his name into the NBA draft last year. I think his name's Xavier Lee. I just looked, John, we're in 4th place in the Ivy League.
Yeah.
We're like 7 and 6. I've been working, I've been practicing every day for this. Why are we not good?
Well, Princeton, in a lot of ways, is kind of the polar opposite of what Princeton went through last year. Last year, Princeton was a heavy favorite going to the Ivy League tournament and was upset in that tournament as the team that everybody thought was going to be one of the best mid-majors in the country. And now you look at what's happened to Princeton. Yes, there's Xavier Lee. Yes, there's Caden Pierce. But look at some of the ancillary players. Zach Martini, no longer on Princeton from a year ago. He's on Rutgers because we have to remember right now that these players still have the ability to move and go to other places. Matalako, another player who was on that Princeton team from a year ago that was upset in the Ivy League tournament, went and played for Notre Dame. So maybe we'll see if Princeton can reverse course. But here's one thing I want to point out. And I know that people, especially at the mid-major level, want to celebrate regular season titles. Nobody remembers in college basketball what people do during the regular season. You are judged by what you do in the NCAA tournament. And this is why what we're going to embark on right now over the next 3.5, 4 weeks is the greatest postseason that we have in sports. We spend days, we spend weeks, we spend months talking about the bubble from February 1st until now. We have to remember, Ross, that last year, there were 5 different teams that stole bids during their respective conference tournaments. Now, what is a bid stealer? A bid stealer is a team that was not projected to make the NCAA tournament, who then wins its conference tournament and then earns a bid to March Madness. Last year, we had Duquesne out of the Atlantic 10. We obviously had UAB out of the AAC. NC State out of the ACC, won the ACC tournament, 5 games in 5 days, and then went on to go to the Final Four under Kevin Keatts. New Mexico stole a bid out of the Mountain West, and then Oregon did the same out of the Pac-12. That was 5 teams that were not projected to be into the NCAA tournament who then found a way to get to March Madness.
It is awesome. Talking with John Rothstein, as you can tell, he is the best college basketball insider. He does it for CBS Sports, company I work for as well. You know, you kind of hit on this, John, but I want to expound upon it a little bit. I know it's all of the above, but what aspect of it do you think makes it so popular? Is it the fact that it's brackets? Like, people just, I don't know what it is about humans. We love my beer pong tournament bracket, like whatever it is. Like, I love brackets, okay? Yeah. And also the betting. I mean, people bet a lot on March Madness. And then it's the underdog, it's the whole thing. If you kind of had to rank the reasons for March Madness popularity, where would you stack them up?
It's a one-game tournament. It is not obviously a best-of-7 series. So the fact that we have this game that obviously is decided by a 68-team bracket with 67 games, if you have one bad half, if you have one bad game, every single thing can change. And then there is still the opportunity for, with everything that's going on in college sports, to have the most unexpected and unpredictable results. And also, you know, I remember 2 years ago, you know, I've been fortunate enough to work the first four for us in Dayton. I had the pleasure of, you know, covering Fairleigh Dickinson 2 years ago in 2023. Fairleigh Dickinson 2 years ago was not good enough to win the Northeast Conference tournament. Merrimack won the Northeast Conference tournament, but because of transitional rule to Division I, Merrimack was not eligible for the NCAA tournament. So Fairleigh Dickinson lost in the finals of its conference tournament, but it got the automatic qualifier because Merrimack wasn't eligible. Fairleigh Dickinson then goes on to the first four, beats Texas Southern in the first four, and then gets a matchup with Duke, who had the National Player of the Year in Zach Edey and won the Big Ten regular season and tournament titles. And still, Fairleigh Dickinson was able then to pull off the biggest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament by beating Purdue. This is the stuff that is in store. And again, if you're not in a situation where you're following college basketball from November 1st until now, you're pretty much admitting that you hate fun.
All right, so I want to ask you about St. John's, because they've won the Big East for the first time in 40 years. I know you've talked about him a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So is this, obviously Pitino's their coach, is this a great coaching job, or is this, John, have we gotten to the point where some St. John's alums made a decision and they bought a really good team? I don't follow it, right? So you explain to me how St. John's seemingly came out of nowhere to get this good.
St. John's has been a barren program for 25 years. St. John's has not won an NCAA tournament game since 2000. How long ago is that? Jay Wright was the head coach at Hofstra. But with all that said, St. John's this year was able to be in a situation because it hired a Hall of Fame coach, a can't-miss coach in Rick Pitino, and it put together a roster now that is, 26-4 heading into tomorrow's game against Marquette. That's the best in the Big East. It's the first regular season title outright for St. John's in the Big East that's been won by the Red Storm since the 84-85 season, which was the year that St. John's went to the Final Four with Lou Carnesecca and Chris Mullin. Look, one of the things that we've seen right now in this new landscape of college sports is the playing field is very level. So a program like St. John's that has the infrastructure in place to put together a strong roster can now compete with the Dukes, the Kansases, and the Kentuckys. And then conversely, some of the blue blood programs now might be falling back to the pack a little bit. Kansas will enter its Big 12 finale in the regular season tomorrow against Arizona. And in the last 2 years, Kansas is only a combined 20-17 in Big 12 regular season games. Remember, this was a program that from 2013 to 2018 under Bill Self won at least a share, from 23 or so to 2018, under Bill Self won at least a share of almost every Big 12 regular season title. Remember, Ross, it's not anarchy. It's just college basketball.
I love his closing line of every answer. All right, tell me about Cooper Flagg. Like, for people that haven't watched him a lot, I think a lot of people would probably say he's the name in college basketball that they recognize, that they know. But a lot of people still haven't really watched him that much. Is there any weakness to his game? Is there an NBA guy that you compare him to that people can kind of get that visual in their head?
Cooper Flagg's like a cheat code. He's like playing Madden when you're a kid and putting it on the easiest possible level because that's how effortless he makes the game look. He's been every bit as good as advertised. I think there's a little bit of Andrei Kirilenko in his game, but he's got so much polish on the offensive side of the floor. But Duke, without question, has the best roster in the sport. I think one of the things that we've all been disappointed about, and it's not Duke's fault, is this is the worst ACC that we have seen in our lifetime. Unless there is a bid stealer at the ACC tournament, this league is likely to get only 3 of its 18 teams into the NCAA tournament. That is just 1/6 of the conference. The ACC since 2017 has lost the following coaches: Rick Pitino, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Tony Bennett, Jim Larinaga, Buzz Williams, Mike Bray, and Leonard Hamilton will leave after this year. So it has been a major, major transition for a conference that was the sport's most fabled for a very long time.
Wow, that is absolutely wild. You got to check John out. He does a terrific job throughout the tournament. If you want to know what's going on with college basketball, follow John Rothstein on every platform. Does a terrific job as the college basketball insider for CBS Sports. That was perfect. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks, Ross. We sleep in May.
I love that guy. Dude, he should actually, I guess it's great that CBS has him. The NCAA should pay that guy.